All right, Councilmember, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, what I'd like to start off by talking about is the 2023 budget.
Yeah,
Excuse me, the fiscal year 2024 budget that was just passed. Before we get into the specifics of it, though, can you tell us how you prepare for budget season? We have the budget, the mayor makes his budget address, and then we have all these hearings. How do you and your team manage to absorb all that information?
sure. As we head up to budget, my team is always thinking about the most pressing issues for our constituents, and trying to turn that into a budget ask or a budget push to make sure that whatever comes out on the other side of the budget can solve some of the biggest issues in our district. For us, for several budget cycles, that has been quality of life services, hence our platform, Just Services PHL. On a day-to-day basis, we get dozens of calls from constituents about quality of life services. It could be a need to pick up abandoned autos. It could be persistent dumping. A lot of calls about traffic calming that's needed within our neighborhoods. A lot of calls about nuisance businesses or nuisance properties. And so while we're all in on dealing with those issues on a one by one or case by case basis, we realize that we need systemic solutions to really improve the way that the city delivers quality of life services to neighborhoods, especially neighborhoods that are dealing with gun violence and crime issues that can be helped by better delivery of quality of life services. So for the past couple of cycles, our push has been Just Services PHL to get more resources into crucial quality of life services in our neighborhoods and to prioritize neighborhoods where those services could really make a difference in terms of decreasing gun violence and other types of crime. So once we figure out like where we want to focus, then the work begins in rallying our colleagues to our cause. And so we try to also pick issues that we know are pressing for everyone. And with Just Services this year, we had unanimous support from our colleagues in asking for this $72 million increase in quality of life services for neighborhoods across the city.
And when we look back at the 2024 budget, I think what I've heard multiple council members, and I think it was Councilmember Squilla who said it in an interview we did with him a few weeks ago, where he said, if people aren't thrilled with it, that means it's probably a good budget because, there was a lot that goes into it. And so when you look back on this 2024 budget, how do you feel about it? And do you think there are always still opportunities, but what are some of the successes there?
I would push back on the notion that if nobody's really happy, that is a good thing.
I think that was
I
Councilmember.
would push
Could have been
back
somebody
on
else. I can't
the
quite remember.
notion, huh?
I
Would you
can't
say?
quite remember who said that, but yeah.
Okay, I would push back on the notion that good public policy means everybody is unhappy. I do think there were some, good things that happened in the FY24 budget. We put more funding towards mobile crisis units to help people deal with mental health. We put more money into cleaning up our commercial corridors. We put money into environmental justice and community gardens. I'm grateful for all of that. However, what we see on the ground and what we hear about across the city tells us that neighborhoods are crying out for more investment in basic city services that can make them cleaner, greener, and safer. And I don't think we hit the mark on that this budget cycle, which is why I voted against it. And in fact, I thought we sent the exact wrong message by allowing for the passage of millions of dollars in tax cuts, but declining to invest a hefty level or hefty enough level in the quality of life services that we hear about from our constituents every single day.
Yeah, and you're looking at a budget where the tax cuts are going to affect people by the tune of maybe $20 a year. Something.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
cost the city about 32 million, I think was the number.
Exactly. And when I consider, whether residents want a cleaner block or that problem property taken care of or $20 annually, I'm going to say, based on what we're hearing from our constituents, that they want better services. And so that would have been such a big and good investment, and also would have shown the residents of this city that we prioritize them and their needs in their neighborhoods. But we continue to push forward.
Mhm. And $32 million in the grand scheme of a $6 billion plus budget might not sound like a lot, but $32 million can go a really long way, So
And $32 million for tax cuts when we're declining to put more illegal dumping crews on the street. $32 million for tax cuts when we're declining to put more resources into cleaning and greening vacant lots that have been dumped on continuously. $32 million when we're declining to invest more in licenses and inspections, when we know they don't have enough field inspectors to do all the things that they need to do to keep neighborhoods healthy and safe. A budget is a moral document, and a budget is about decisions. And I feel like going for the tax cuts and not going for more of a hefty investment in quality of life services was the wrong decision.
So, we're in August right now, and before we know it, City Council's fall session will be upon us. What are your big plans for the fall, and what are some of the things you're looking forward to trying to get out there?
Sure. I mean, we're still figuring some of this out,
Sure.
but I wanted to give you, a small sneak preview of the fall. First, you'll remember last session, we were able to pass legislation that allows for the creation of a reparations task force in Philadelphia that will look at, what Philadelphia's role should be in, bringing about reparations for the descendants of slaves in our city. So this fall, we'll be formulating the specifics of that reparations task force and standing it up in partnership with NCOBRA PHL, who has been our partner in that work. We're also in the midst of reforming the landlord-tenant officer. There have been multiple shootings over the past 4 months as the LTO has attempted to carry out evictions. We think that is unconscionable. No other city performs evictions in this way, and we need some change drastically. So I'll be working on that with Councilmember Brooks. In our district, we're also seeing the continued growth and really explosion of the life sciences sector. And, we're seeing the growth of that industry drive a lot of real estate development in West and Southwest Philadelphia. But we're focused on workforce development and making sure that as those companies start and grow, that there are real job opportunities for Black and Brown people who live in West and Southwest Philadelphia, and making sure that the city's mind is appropriately focused on life sciences workforce development. We're also going to be looking at the police department's botched response to the 911 call after the first death in the King Sussing mass shooting. I anticipate having a hearing on that topic, as well as advocating for more gun control at the state and federal level so that we never see an event like that again in our city. We also want to look in a deeper way at youth gun violence. Last session, we had a hearing on youth gun violence, and we want to start digging into some of the solutions to pull youth out of a cycle of violence. One thing that we anticipate honing in on is the Juvenile Justice Services Center in our district. It is overcrowded. It has become a dangerous place, and it is a place that is not adequately preparing young people to be productive leaders in our community. So we want to, we want to help create some reform at JJSC, and we want to help create more resources to help young people who are returning to our communities. And we think that that can have an impact on what we're seeing as it relates to youth gun violence. And then lastly, I would list, last session, we had a major settlement with IBID as it relates to the University City townhomes. We were able to settle for $3.5 million that would give each of the 70 families $50,000 above their relocation costs to move to a neighborhood of their choice. We also were able to win 20% of the site for the city to build affordable housing on, 70 new units of affordable housing, and we're going to be overseeing, the construction of that housing and making sure that what lands there is good for the community and the families if they should want to come back.
And that's so fundamentally important. And it's kind of amazing that that came together the way it did. Because
yes, I mean,
nothing could have happened, right? Anybody could say, well, it's just not going to happen. We're not going to do it. And lo and behold, there's this fairly, a very good agreement that came out of this.
Amazing if you don't know how much work went into it. We were working on that for 2 years. We went through a lengthy court battle. The families who live at that site advocated vigorously for their own interest for a 2-year period. So when you consider all of that work, it's probably not as amazing, right? It's
no, it is. I think it is. It's incredible.
I think the point I'm trying to make, it's not luck, right? It was a lot of hard work and advocacy that went into that settlement. And I feel grateful for it. Obviously, true equity would mean nobody has to leave. Nobody has to be displaced from their longtime home. But in the absence of that, I feel good about the settlement. And I want to make sure that what gets built there is worthy of that fight, right? And all of the work that went into it. So I anticipate that being something that I'm focused on this session as well.
Yeah. So this fall session is leading to a big time of change in local government, the city council and in the administration. So what, and Council President Darrell Clark is going to be retiring. That's kind of the end of an era. What are you looking for in a new city council president?
Say that, I greatly respect the outgoing president. I've learned a lot from his leadership. I've learned a lot from watching him. He's led, an orderly council. He's, I think well respected amongst the body and outside of the body. And I just want to give him his flowers, right? As it relates to new leadership, I'm looking for somebody that can help us to have the hard conversations so that we can move forward successfully as a legislative body on all of the pressing issues, whether we're talking about gun violence or housing. The city really needs council right now to be offering bold, innovative, effective solutions. I'm looking for someone that will, allow our members to be at the table, right? Voicing their opinions and being a part of the process. And I'm looking for someone that will support council members in the ways that we relate to our constituents, right? For example, sometimes when I'm out in the community and I'm talking to people, I get the sense that there might not be as keen of an awareness of what our role, what council's role is, and how our role can help to make the city and its neighborhoods better. So I definitely will be looking for someone that would help us communicate with our constituents in effective ways as well. So those are just some, some of the key items.
Are you hoping for a more progressive council? And if so, what does that really mean to you?
Yes. Progressive to me means that we are coming to the table with bold solutions for working class people in the city of Philadelphia. right? It means we're not playing around the edges. It means that we're doing our best to make sure on a range of issues that especially the most disinvested people and places are at the center of our conversations and our policy making. It means that we're not compromising on making sure that everyone has safe, affordable housing. It means that we're working every day to invest what we can in the people and places most impacted by gun violence in ways that will matter on this issue. To me, progressivism is about really putting the everyday people of Philadelphia at the center of everything that happens, and doing that in a way that is unapologetic and not fearful at all, because there are a lot of powerful interests that may fight against, some of those goals. So yes, I'm fighting for a more progressive council because I think that's what's best for my constituents.
And, this is looking farther ahead in the fall session, but, I'll ask the question and we'll say, we're looking at, in early 2024 in January, new administration, most likely Cheryl Parker will be elected mayor. You'll have a new council, a lot of turnover in council over the last few years. So you will, in your second term, be one of the senior members. And what needs to happen in those early months between the mayor, council, when we talk about poverty, we talk about violence, what needs to happen early on to make sure that those 4 years are really effective?
Well, one, I think we need a close and effective relationship with the new administration. I think that we can achieve really big changes and positive changes in this city if the admin and council are, working together, pushing in the same direction. And that's what I'm looking to form, and what I hope council will form with the new mayor. I think it's extremely critical. And I've been very critical of this administration and its approach to gun violence, because I do not believe that we have to be helpless on this issue. I do not believe that we have to wait on Harrisburg or the federal government on this issue. I think there are a ton of things that local government can and should be doing every day to really move the needle on this. I'm hopeful that we can get there with the new administration.
Do you think this fall session is going to be just a little, I don't know what the word, maybe just a little different because of all the impending changes?
I think a little different is probably modest. I think this fall and the entire next year is probably going to be a lot different. But I welcome those changes. I know that we've been in a dark period here in Philadelphia, but I truly believe that we're on an upswing, right? And I feel excited about the new energy that is poised to come into council. I feel excited about the council presidency. I feel excited about the new mayoral administration, and it makes me feel a sense of hope that we're going to deliver what constituents really, really need. So big changes, but I think good changes.
All right, Councilmember Jamie Gauthier, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me on.